Lucy. Mwah. Merry Christmas to you, my darling. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful time. I'm recording this a little bit before Christmas, I have to say, and it's going to then ping and tell you about it on Christmas morning. So I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful time, and I'm doing a little Christmas reading for you. It's called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And here we go, sweetheart. Let me just turn that round a little. Does that work like that? Ah, there we go. That's a little better for the lighting. Okay, here we go. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown, and the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy hanging mistletoes and a wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, they'd rush for their toys. And then, oh the noise, 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 noise. The one thing he hated, the noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos young and old would sit down to a feast. They'd feast and they'd feast and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Who would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with this now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? And then he got an idea. A wonderful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Clausy hat and a coat. And he chuckled and chuckled, what a great Grinch trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. And all I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer's scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simple said. If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some empty old sacks. In a ramshackle sleigh he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up!" and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. And all their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air, and all the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When they came to the first little house on the square, "This is stock number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the rooftops, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck up once, for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant round the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates and drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags up one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding, and he took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, the Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned round fast and he saw a small Who. Little Cindy Lou Who was no more than two. The Grinch had been caught out by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know the old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie and thought it up quick. Why, my little sweet tot, to the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child, then he patted her head. He got her drink and sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 dawn, all the Who's still abed, and all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. Packed it with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the top to dump it. Pooh-hoo to the Who's, he grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're waking up, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. But when the Who's down in the Whoville will all go cry, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinning the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So I paused and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville, the Grinch eyes popped his. Then he shook, and what he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came somehow or other. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packaging boxes or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 times that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast feast. Lucy, I love you. I wish we were all together, you and me and Mama, and that we could all spend Christmas together. We can't, and I'm very sorry, very sad and sorry about that. I love you, Lucy. You're my wonderful, beautiful, darling daughter. I miss you. Despite what Mama might say, I still love Mama too. I love you both, and I miss you. Bye-bye, darling.